with a game that just ended. The last CONCACAF team standing, the good old Canadians in New Jersey taking on Argentina. Same score as when the two sides met in the tournament opener. The big news in this one was would Messi start? He did end up starting. So did Di Maria. No Lautaro Martinez. Instead, it was Julian Alvarez, and Scaloni's decision there rewarded. Alvarez opening the scoring in the 22nd minute. It was 1-0 at the half, still a tight game. And then Lionel Messi off a deflection, scoring in the 50th minute, his first goal of the tournament, and Argentina advances in front of 80,000 plus in New Jersey. Ale, what do we make of this Argentina performance tonight as they got the job done over Canada?
And big story coming into this game was, well, what is the fitness of Lionel Messi? And while people may pay attention to what Lionel Messi did with the ball, actually the first sign that Lionel Messi was feeling a whole lot better than he did in the game against Ecuador was the fact that in a couple of sequences, very early on in this match, he was actually looking not to come to the ball, but to run in behind. Actually looking to run in behind, which then tells you you're trusting your body. You feel a whole lot better. You feel like you can actually challenge your legs to get in behind and get at full speed, whatever full speed is right now at this point of his career. He was actually trying to run in behind. And that gave you, I think, a clear signal that Lionel Messi was going to have a different type of performance. Now, I'm not saying that he was always active. I'm not saying that he was always getting on the ball, but he was getting on the ball enough to make a difference and to have an impact on the game for Argentina and to really make it a whole lot easier for them to connect out of the midfield, get into the attacking half, get into the final third, always finding that pass that breaks out of pressure. To add that to the fact that Angel Di Maria was also very active. And in him being very active, it takes pressure away from Lionel Messi. It forces Alphonso Davies to go into a wide area to address Angel Di Maria, which then doesn't allow players to step into the space for Lionel Messi, and he can now operate with a whole lot more space. I thought that Argentina was solid without being spectacular. I think if you were to characterize this team and describe this team, that's what you would say overall. They're solid, not spectacular, and they know how to win games. And when it came to making winning plays, Argentina was far more effective in front of goal than Canada were. The truth of the matter is that Lionel Messi and Argentina look more likely to continue to score goals. And even though Canada pushed and they huffed and they puffed and they created some half chances here and a chance there, I never really got the sense that Canada was ever going to get back into this match.
How much better was Messi tonight, Herc, than what we saw against Ecuador?
Light years better. He was actually moving. He was, listen, it's not the Messi of old where he's going to get the ball in between the lines, between players, dribbling and doing everything that he does, but he was very active, and he looked like he was a different player than Ecuador. And listen, maybe Ecuador is a one-off. It's not the type of Messi we're used to seeing, but he was much more involved. And I agree, the running beyond players. But I think that Scaloni, they were purposely attacking that left-hand side of Alphonso Davies. He was a victim tonight of Jacob Schaffelberg with the idea of occupying that side so they don't go forward. They can hurt us down that left-hand side. Let's occupy that side, get in behind because the spaces will be there. And this game was over in the 22nd minute. It was over in the 22nd minute. The moment that Julian Alvarez gets beyond them, another defensive mistake, Bombito at midfield, Rodrigo de Paul with the ball, nobody steps. He's allowed to scan the field and put the ball where he wants. Julian Alvarez with a beautiful touch, and he finishes it. The moment that ball hits the back of the net, it's over. Canada is now chasing the game. They have to stretch themselves out even more if they want to risk and somewhat disturb the opposition, because there were half chances, no real chances for Canada. That's as good as it got. It was a very professional performance from Argentina, a well-coached performance from Scaloni. They attacked this Canadian team where they knew they can hurt them in behind.
How does this Argentina performance, Kasey, stack up against what we've seen from them the rest of the tournament?
Well, I think besides the last match where we were very critical about was Messi fit, the midfield then was all over the place. We saw it from the first 5 minutes of this match that the Argentinian midfield was connecting 1- and 2-touch passes. We didn't see any of that in the Ecuador game. So the midfield was up for it. Messi, obviously, not only did he run in behind, once actually in the first 15 minutes, he chased back and defended. And when he
sorry, what?
Yes, it's true. One time he chased back and defended.
Right, okay.
And so when you saw that, you went, okay, you know, Messi's up for this. But it's kind of what we've been used to seeing from Argentina is doing what's just enough to win the match. Now, when we look at Canada, we knew that we knew they needed the perfect match, and the perfect match didn't happen. Matches are won in the 18s. They're not won in midfield. It has to be those moments. And what we saw from Argentina was a difference of quality in the final third, in the attacking end of the field, compared to Canada. Canada broke them down 2 or 3 times in each half when they needed that moment of quality in the final third, albeit a touch, a run, a shot, a decision, whatever it was, that was missing from Canada. And then when you needed that tackle, that challenge, that whatever, you saw it from Argentina as well. So the gulf in final moment quality, both in the attack and in the defense, was miles apart with Argentina tonight.
In the pregame, Ale, we talked about kind of what would the approach be for Canada and what would be the approach for Jesse Marsch. Did they get it right? And was it similar to what we've seen from them throughout this tournament?
No, they didn't get it right because, and Kasey was mentioning in the pregame how potentially it would be better for Canada to drop off and be very solid defensively and very disciplined defensively and move together and then find an opportunity where you can get out on the counter. And while I agree that technically that's what you would want to do and tactically, ideally that's what you would want to do against Argentina, it's not in the personality of this group to do so. And more importantly, it's not in the personality of Jesse Marsch to do this. Jesse Marsch is a guy that is in your face, and his teams are going to get in your face, and they're going to press higher up the field, and they're going to try to make it difficult for you, and they're going to try to force turnovers in the attacking half so that then you have a shorter distance to go from goal once you recover possession. Well, what we saw from Canada in the initial part of the game was an in-between. It was neither sitting back nor was it pressing higher up the field. And in being in between, you're nowhere. What it tells me is that there may have been a message of, hey, let's be a little bit more conservative defensively. When there is an opportunity to press, you got to go all together. And in order to do that effectively, you have to be very clear as to when you step, how you step. And what I saw from Canada is that 3 guys will go, but not the rest of the team. Then the 3 guys would drop off, and then now Argentina had space to play. It was never connected. And what we have seen from Canada in this tournament that they had been so successful doing is making the field short. With that pressure in between lines is very clear and very clean and very well organized. Well, it wasn't organized. And if you need an example, if you think that I'm wrong, if you think that whatever I'm telling you doesn't make any sense, just look at the first goal and just look at the lack of pressure on the first initial pass into Rodrigo de Paul. He's allowed to turn. There's no pressure there either. And now you have center backs that instead of recognizing the danger and dropping off, what do? They keep that high line. High line without pressure on the ball and spacing behind is dead. Dead. And then, of course, Julian Alvarez brings the ball down, finishes the chance, 1-0 Argentina, and here we go.
It's extremely difficult to be connected as a team. And now you're asking a team that's never played in this system, that's had 2 games with this coach heading into this tournament, to get things right in a new form of playing. What Ali's talking about is that line of confrontation. It was just above half circle. When they bypassed that pressure, because when you get in there, there's pressure. You confront. But when they bypassed that pressure, Rodrigo de Paul allowed to scan the field, they were caught in that no man's land. And in that high line, it's Bombito, it's Cornelius, facing the wrong way. It's Alistair Johnston, not closing in. There's too many spaces with a team that thrives on spaces, which with players that are good in open space, facing goal. It's not a good combination. This was a team in Canada today was exposed for how naive they were at times and also how inexperienced working together into this new system they have been.
What about their star man, Kasey, Alphonso Davies? If there's a guy that you thought Canada could count on in a big moment, you thought it would be in him. What did you think of him tonight? And then maybe big picture, his performance.
He had a tough tournament.
Really?
He had a tough tournament. He didn't impact the ball going forward. I think a lot of us were expecting, Alphonso, when he's in full flow at Bayern Munich, and he then has space to overlap and run, and there's something special there. I never really saw him get out on the run at any time during the tournament. And then even multiple times, we were talking about Di Maria makes a run, and then you think, oh, okay. The reason they didn't pass him the ball was because Alphonso Davies is there, and he's just going to chase him down. But then the first goal, or right before the first goal, Di Maria makes a run, comes over the top. There's then miscommunication between Alphonso and the center back, and then a great ball comes in, and I think Messi misses a shot. But it's just like, it just was not what I expected, because we expect a very athletic side in Canada, and the most athletic being Alphonso Davies, and being tipped to be the best player in CONCACAF. And I don't know if it's, I want to go to Real Madrid, am I staying but it just looked like something else was in his head, and it just wasn't a clean performance in any of the matches.
Go ahead, Herc.
No, we always talk about how it is a player's stock improve with the tournament. This was one of those tournaments for Alphonso Davies where if you're Real Madrid, you're thinking, wait a second, what are we getting here? Because Real Madrid goes for the best players in the world in those positions. Alphonso Davies did not look like one of the best players in the world in this tournament.
Is that down to him or how he was deployed, you think?
Deployed in how? He's a left back. He's playing in a left back position. You're a left back in left back position, scanning the whole field, the field in front of you. You should be able to make a pass. You should be able to dribble out of the back. Now, listen, we'll get into the fields, and they were atrocious. As bad as they can be, this is embarrassing for CONCACAF. This is embarrassing for CONMEBOL. This is embarrassing for a country that's going to host the World Cup.
A stadium that's going to host the World Cup.
A stadium that's going to host the World Cup. It is an embarrassment. But Alphonso Davies had some good fields. Alphonso Davies had some moments where he could prove that he's a good footballer, and he was nowhere in between. As Kasey was alluding to, I don't know if the not knowing of where he's going to go, the uncertainty of his club situation was weighing heavily on him, but he looked a shadow of himself. This was a player that we weren't just talking about being the best player in CONCACAF, we're talking about being one of the best in his position in the world. Today, this tournament, he didn't look it.
Can I just tell you that I am not surprised? Not surprised, because if you follow Bayern Munich and Bundesliga,
nobody follows it like Bundesliga.
Available on ESPN Plus, by the way. Derek Ray would get really mad if I didn't say that. Available on ESPN Plus, Bundesliga.
But what?
Exclusively on ESPN Plus.
Ollie, what's the German word for that?
Available? Don't quite have it in my vocabulary just yet, but I'm working on it. Here's the thing. If you have seen Alphonso Davies play this season with Bayern Munich, the truth is that he hasn't been in that full flow that you're talking about.
Correct.
Kasey. And it's been for a while that he hasn't been at that level. And so I think so many times we associate players to past performances and expect that that's what they're going to deliver. And you certainly think, or would think, that would be the case with Alphonso Davies, and because he is the team captain and because he is the flag bearer, the poster child for Canadian football, that indeed, he would show up in this sort of moments. But he was never, ever, certainly in this game, a presence in the attack for Canada. And why is that important? It's because he is a guy that with athleticism, with speed, when he gets around that corner, when he opens up into that space and exploits that space, it makes this team exponentially more dangerous and more difficult to defend. And it makes this team, I think it actually elevates players around him, because now you have a team that is getting on that track meet, that is getting on that running back and forth that they do so very well. And if you were to point out something that Argentina did very well today, is control the pace of the game and the rhythm of the game. They only got in trouble when they started turning the ball over in the second half. But for the majority of the match, we're going to slow it down when we want to, and we're going to speed it up when we want to. Not when Canada wants to run. We'll run when we want to run. Alphonso Davies never impacted or affected this match.